Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, the podcast where Tim Ford, that's me, talks to James Bale, that's him, about triathlon. And Jimbo, we have plenty of triathlon to talk about, mate.
It's
How you
packed. It's a
going?
packed episode.
How you going? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, mate, I'm good. I'm good. I'm running consistently, which is nice. So I'm floating through life at the moment, training twice a day, just thoroughly enjoying being able to train and actually feel like I'm getting better and not feel like I'm just managing a decline, which I have done for the last, as I've said many times, the last 5 years. So yeah, it's banging. It's banging. I'm riding in the day and then I'm running in the evenings, and I feel like I'm getting faster. I'm still very slow, but I feel like I'm getting faster. How are you, mate?
I'm actually having a fairly similar situation because I got very sick before I was meant to race. As everybody knows, I was meant to race in June and then got very sick, and it's almost been like back to square one. And then I've had this neural foot problem. It's just fucking like typical getting older triathlete. And my coach Billy's been quite reluctant to actually start giving me like speed or tempo work or anything. And then I was like, nah, look, it's fine, mate. Like, let's just do it. So he started. And every time he gives me, like, I don't know about you, but one of the paces I actually really struggle to sit at is probably like tempo, right? Like, you're just under threshold, whatever. And so he'll give me like, he's always saying aim for about 420 pace. And every time he's given me those, I can't run and stare at my watch, right? So it's like you just sort of have to feel you're running the right pace. And I swear to God, every time I've done one of his sets, I end up finishing faster. Like, it started with like, 10-minute intervals, and then I do 12 or 12, 10, 8, and then up to 16, and then mile repeats. And every single time I'm running faster than expected. I had to do, even on Sunday, I did a build run off the bike, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. I think it was 450, 440, 420, 4 minutes. And I was thinking, I've done a bit of running like that. That's a pretty big ask. Fucking nailed it. And then even this week, we had a weirdly hot day in Sydney. It was 40 degrees on Wednesday. And I ran at like, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was 10-minute warm up, 30 minutes at about 420 pace. And he was like, don't run any faster than 420 pace and then cool down. And I averaged like 422 for the 30 minutes. I'm like, fucking, it's actually really nice to be given targets and either exceed or hit them rather than
Yeah.
like, it's like a struggle to get close. So I've actually just been the same thing where it's so happy that the training does seem to be going quite well at the moment. So yeah, it's nice. I like
Feeling
the feeling.
improvements is a hell of a thing. It's a hell
Mm,
of a thing. I bought myself a pair of those Nike Vomero premiums as well,
tell
and
me
they
about
are very
those.
comfortable.
They good
Hey?
shoe? It's a good shoe. I
Oh,
don't know anything about
comfy,
it.
comfy, spongy motherfuckers, mate. Yeah, really good for the longer runs. I don't use them for the shorter stuff, but for the long, lazy runs, they're very nice.
I actually do like like, again, people will love the gear chat, I think. So I use Mizuno shoes and I like that I'm back because again, with my foot, I was just using the same shoe every time because I was like too scared. But I've started to go back to like my rotation of I use the Mizuno Neo Blast for my longer runs. It's the same thing. It's like a actually I think it's probably the best run shoe I've ever used. I love it. And now I'm gone back to the Wave Rebellion Flash. They have a Wave Rebellion Pro is the Mizuno Carbon. Beautiful shoe as well. But what I think they do really well is they have the same shoe with the same shape, but it's not a carbon plate, it's a fiberglass plate.
Hmm.
So it's I use that when I'm doing like the tempo stuff, right? But if I was going to do like really hard 200s, 400s, 800s or something, I'd probably switch to the carbon. So I like that they have, if I just want a long run shoe, I've got that. If I want to do something a bit faster, if I want the plate support but don't want to fuck around with carbon, I've got the option. I do like, I'm back to rotating my shoes a little bit. So it's, again, the shit's getting
Gear
real.
talk. We're talking triathlon, mate. That's what
Ah,
we're
people,
at.
people love it. So again, if people like Mizuno, highly recommend. I'm a big fan
No,
of their shoes.
if you want carbon shoes, look no further than the Meta Speeds. They are the bollocks.
So you are a bit brand agnostic, right? You're talking about you got your Nike fluffies, and you've
Yeah,
got your
I don't stick to. I use the Vomero premiums now for my super long runs, and then I'll use my Hoka Skyward X, which are max stack but with a carbon plate in them for my sort of tempo thresholdy stuff. But if I'm doing a real speed session dialed in, then I'll use the Meta Speeds. If it's not raining, I'm a fair weather carbon plate man. If it's raining, then which it is 99% of the time in Devon, then I'll put something a bit more substantial on my feet.
I haven't worn carbon in probably a year, to be honest. I can't even remember that. Although I just ordered a new pair yesterday, it's like I've got a problem. I've got literally behind off camera, there's boxes of carbon shoes just
Yeah, you
sitting
should
there.
see my corridor. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
If people like the gear chat and they want to get a bit more of the behind the scenes, it's patreon.com/talking triathlon. We promise we're going to do our monthly bonus show very soon. We just, again, haven't. But yeah, we're going to talk about Kona. I think we're going to talk a bit more about some of the stuff we're going to chat this week, which is about the PTO, some of the announcements that have come up. But yeah, it's going to be, I'm actually looking forward to doing that one because yeah, there's lots of things to discuss, a bit more, take off the get a bit loosey goosey and a bit more honest and real. So if you're interested in that, yeah, head there, $5 a month. Thanks to everybody who has signed up lately, Jimbo, mate. As we said at the start, plenty of stuff to get through this week. Now, where do you want to go? Do we want to go to the races? Do we want to go to announcements? Do we want to
We
talk
have
about
to start
live
with
experiences?
announcements before we go into the races, I think. And the biggest announcement that's happened
Yes,
in the last week has been the T100. I've got my glasses on because I'm going to be reading a bit of this. It's like going back to the old days. I'm just going to read out the key points. The
please.
T100 has announced that as the PTO continues its journey to elevate the sport and take it mainstream, the revisions to the T100 competition format include adapting the event schedule to allow for fewer mandatory races for professional women and men. Instead of hosting joint female and male T100 race weekends, they will each race four individual dates before coming together for the Qatar T100 World Championship final in Doha. Each athlete, each athlete's best three T100 races scores plus the final will count towards the women's and men's T100 championship titles. There's also the removal of season-long contracts. They're moving to a ranking-based selection of events, providing athletes with more flexibility throughout the season. In the lead up to each event, the PTO will simply issue invitations to the best female and male professionals. For the first race, this will be based on their 2025 T100 to Qatar finishing position, top 10, the top five from the contender rankings, and five wildcards. After that, it'll be the top 10 in the 2026 T100 race to Qatar, along with the next eight from the PTO World Ranking System and two wildcards. They are also saying they've increased prize money per race. Each T100 race in 2026 will offer $275,000 prize fund, more than double the prize fund per race this year, starting with 50 grand for the first place, 40 grand for second, 30 for third, and down to 3,500 for 20th place. The series prize pool will be worth 1.450, the split equally between men and women, with a 100 grand for each series winner.
Yeah.
I rattled through that, mate.
This was a roller coaster announcement for me. Like this was one of those things where, and we're gonna unpack it and buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because I have thoughts. Um, I I was, yeah, okay, there were whispers leading up to. I think everybody who sort of is in the sport knew this was happening before it was announced. Like I had the day before the announcement came out, several people being like, "Oh, it's confirmed. There's no contracts." And when you hear that, you ask a person. So this was going around, and listeners will probably also hear that this is something that we have spoken about our desire for. I, I'm going to go back in further, James. We were very, 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 very positive about the announcements the PTO made when they announced the T100 series, the contracts, the season-long narrative, the F1 style thing. We thought it was great. 2 years later, I think we've both realized that it's probably not what we're after, or it hasn't eventuated the way we are. So this seems like a good fix in a lot of ways. Like my initial reaction is like, excellent. They take it, as we've always said about the PTO, they're very good at actually listening and reacting and taking the feedback on board. And then I started to unpack this, and it was like, yes, awesome. They're getting rid of the contracts. Great. So we're going to go back. And then it's like, they're splitting the men and women. I went, oh no. Like that was the first, like, oh no, this is not great. And then it's kind of, I don't know. I look at it, I'm like, there's a lot of positives here, but I mean, I've still heard it's only 20 athletes, which I think is a problem. And I wonder if, because you see this and it's like the more prize money and stuff. And I know I don't have the information to be like declarative and attack the PTO because I don't actually know. And to be honest, I can't be bothered trying to work out the numbers. I was doing some stuff with ChatGPT the other day and it wasn't very conclusive for me. But I feel like this is one of those times where they're actually about to spend less money, but they're trying to present it like it's
I mean,
actually a
that
reduction.
has been floated online by a few people that there is a overall reduction in prize money, but due to a condensing of the races, there's an increase per race. Let's start with the removal of the season-long contracts.
Yep.
Like, I think overall, from my perspective, in my opinion, good thing
Yep. So do I.
because you had these athletes who had season-long contracts who were contracted to race, and they either weren't racing or they were racing and going online and saying on their socials that they didn't particularly care about this race. They were doing it only because they were contracted to, thus undermining the push towards creating this series with a captive group of athletes racing it week in, week out. And that never sat comfortably with me. I mean, yeah, we got some great races. We got some fields where I like wild cards coming in and filling gaps, but I really didn't like seeing and hearing athletes undermining the attempt to contract them and to generate this repeating race day by saying that it's I'm only there for the contract. I think they didn't get the buy-in that they wanted from the athletes that really shot themselves in the foot because it was an opportunity to be part of something and support something.
That's my big takeaway is like, and look, I sometimes I look at this sport sometimes and I just shake my head. And it feels like we've heard the pros for so long. And so, like, even us, right? We're sort of on the sandbox saying there's not enough money in the sport for the professionals. It's too hard to make a legitimate income from this sport. You have the PTO come along and suddenly it's like, we're going to give these contracts. And it's like literally the second that there's actually a decent, stable way to earn an income, the athletes have been like, we'll take that, but let's work out how to fuck it. Like,
Mm.
I looked at it and I mean, what you talked about to me, and again, I really like this guy as an athlete, like genuinely big fan. But seeing Frederick Funk come out and be like, I'm actually ending my season now, but I'm still going to race my contracted races because I have to. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you
Mm.
do it, do it. You do not need to announce this. Like, if I was the PTO when that happened, I'd just be like, seriously, send somebody, take him out. Like, we can't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And also, I mean, it's such a small way of thinking about the sport and the ecosystem as a
Exactly.
whole because you're undermining you need people watching these races. You need people buying into the competitive nature of these races. And when people hear that, they think, well,
What's
should
the
I
point?
watch? What's
Yeah.
the point in watching if people are taking it in that manner?
You just hit the nail on the head to me though, is that there is this very short-term approach from the athletes. And I don't know whether it is because, as we just said, there hasn't been enough money. So they see it and it's like this, it's almost this cannibalistic, like, fuck, I need it, give it to me, and that hoard. And I really feel like this is the same thing I think I've spoken about on, I can't remember if it's regular episodes, bonus episodes, but you see this all the time in triathlon. This isn't just with events, this is with sponsorships where you get these big brands come in and they want to pump cash into the sport and they'll come in with the big contracts and they last like 1 or 2 years because they just don't see the return and there's just not the buy-in from the athletes. And I really feel like if 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 and it's I get it right. These are people, they've got a finite amount of time to make the income. But if they had have supported it, this let's call it the gravy train, could have just kept rolling. But the fact that you have start lists where there's like 6 of 20 contracted athletes on it, and that's almost becoming more common than like the Wollongong start list, no disrespect, was just not what I expect of the T100 series. The fact that I looked at those start lists and was extremely confident who would win the men's and women's race, and not close either, like would dominate, and to watch and be like, exactly what I expected because so many other athletes just don't start. It's just this like the reality is PTO are probably doing this because number one, they've realized they don't need to spend money on contracts. They don't need to because you got the Ironman who don't give appearance fees or travel support or accommodation. They don't do these things, and their races are just as stacked as the PTO. If you're the
Mm.
PTO, of course you'd be like, well, why the fuck are we spending this money? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I
And that's when you see online people saying, well, it's a reduction in prize money because they're not paying out for the contracts anymore. I'm like, well,
why would they?
it's
Why
kind of
would
a
they?
fair enough. Um, and I would be thinking that we're going to get more competitive racing now because you're going to have that. the athletes in the rankings are going to get to you're going to get the offer. They take it or not, and then it rolls down, rolls down. There's going to be wild cards, and I think we're going to see better fields because of this, and I think we're going to see people wanting to fill those spots and wanting to be part of those races.
Do you think $50,000 first place is a big enough draw? Like, because I know that when it was a couple of years ago when it was really good, it was like what 100 grand to win a race, and that's when we saw it was four events, big prize at each one, no appearance fee. I think they might have given some travel support. I actually don't know. I can't remember. But I do look at and wonder if this prize pot or the prize money is going to be enough to bring the big crowd because I mean it's not just that even it's the same thing we've seen. This is just like the triathlon situation, right? And again, I love Supertry, but it's the same narrative. Supertry comes in. We're going to create a broadcastable package. We're going to support the pros. We're going to take the risk. We're going to pay big prize money. They have the contracts, they have the events, and then suddenly they go, actually, we're going to lower the prize money to be more in line with World Triathlon because we're in bed with World Triathlon. T100 or PTO, big prize money, big events. We're going to have majors. We're going to lower the prize money. Then suddenly it's like, actually, we're not going to do the travel and everything for the athletes with Super Try. We're gonna give them a budget. We're gonna pay them less to come to our races. T100, we're gonna get rid of the contracts. I don't know what's happening with the travel, but I'm assuming this will probably help, but it's less. Then Super Try. We're actually not going to focus on broadcast anymore. We're going to do it, but we're also moving into the mass participation market. T100. We're no longer focusing on broadcast. Yes, we're still going to do it, but our main business model is now mass participation. It's every time I see this, and we look at Ironman all the time. It's like fucking Ironman, blah blah blah. They had it right. Like we've just seen them. Everyone else is trying to do this thing, and you look at Ironman, they must almost be like, motherfuckers, you think we didn't try this shit? Like, why try, we've been doing this for so long. You think what you're doing, we didn't try, and you're going to end up in the same position as us because that's what it seems to be. And we've discussed a lot in the past about how it's disappointing that it constantly comes back to being the age group that funds the sport. But apparently, that's all that's going to happen because all the major organizations now seem to be building their model around the mass participation. And it's like, yeah, it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same. What's how much prize money do you how much prize money do you get for winning a Pro Series Ironman race?
I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head, to be honest.
It's not 50 grand though, is it?
No, I don't think so.
And so I think yes, in answer to your first question before you went on your monologue, I think 50 grand is enough to draw people in, definitely.
I hope so
And also
because
it pushes when they first announced the contracts, I remember saying to you at the time, and we both had a conversation about it, I don't know whether you agreed with me or not, but I remember it being my opinion that once you've locked in those 20 contracts, you're not incentivizing people to go up the rankings in that moment. Yes, you are overall because they want a contract next year. But when you're inviting those people in the rankings, it incentivizes a fluidity to those rankings and people trying to improve their ranking. Not that they wouldn't anyway, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Well, again, I mean, the rankings thing is a whole other kettle of fish because I think another error or like problem we have is that the T100 system or the rankings run by the PTO is now so heavily skewed to favor PTO events with the diamond status. And I actually reached out to the wonderful Tom at the PTO the other day because I think we were discussing it. I don't know if we discussed it on the episode or offline, but I was wondering about how a field or a race like Wollongong actually goes because it's clearly not the full contract. And I said, like, does events like that impact the platinum gold status or whatever? And he was saying, no, the status of the race is set well before because like with they divide the prize money and the bonus pool and everything per event. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, is that actually applicable if 16 of, 80% of the field isn't actually going to make any of that prize money because they're doing one-offs, they're getting wild cards. But the point is when I looked at this, and I put this on our Instagram this week, where you looked at the strength of field score that Wollongong got compared to the strength of field, which is a factor in the points, right? I think so. A race gets set as status for free, but then the strength of field impacts how many ranking points you can get. And the T100 Wollongong had a stronger field according to their ranking system than Ironman World Champs in Nice for the men. And I'm like, how? Like, how is this? And again, we got so many responses to the questions and stuff, and everyone was like, it's because of the diamond stats, the fact that they give their races this thing creates a system where anybody who does the T100 races, you do three of those, you're guaranteed to be high in the rankings. So naturally, their strength of field is going to be higher because they've inflated
Yeah.
the way it
And it's
ranks.
because, yeah, and it's based on their own ranking system.
Yeah, and I
You
just
could
looked at
do
them and was,
no T100 races and focus only on Ironman, and you'd be lower in the T100 rankings, but you could be a better Ironman athlete.
yeah, it's well, again, what gets even more confusing is they've got T100 rankings and the PTO world rankings. But I just do feel like, and I put up the poll as well. I asked, like, do people still consider the P? Because when it came, I really liked having the world rankings. I thought it was a really good thing. We discussed it a lot. We used to use it as a topic of discussion on the show. I don't trust it anymore. Like, I don't look at those world rankings anymore as a legitimate world ranking. Like, I don't. And it's a bit disappointing. And it's like, yeah, I feel like, and again, I don't belittle or begrudge the PTO this. I think that, I understand that they're a business and they need to make money. But I do feel like when we first had the PT introduced, we're so far from what that was. Like, remember when it first started, it was kind of like more like a union. It was more like a union for long distance pros. And I think back to that and I look at where we are now and I'm like, they're almost unrecognizable. It's so far from that original goal that it has basically become, like, remember even when they used to, like, we're not competing with Ironman, or they are literally becoming they are literally becoming another IM. And again, I don't business, right? Like, it's what makes it work. But I don't know. I look at it, I'm a bit. When did it like? Is it one of those things where like the frog in the boiling water? Where they say if you drop a frog in boiling water, it just jumps out, whereas if you put it in the water and warm it up, it sits there.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy with the season-long contracts going. I'm happy with the new way of filling fields. I'm not adverse to the prize money change and the money being taken out of the contracts and put into the races to incentivize stronger fields. The one thing I'm not happy about is the splitting of the men's and women's races.
I don't like that, and I don't like the 20 athlete field. They're the two things I don't like. I think we
Yeah,
need
I mean
more
the 20
athletes.
out, yeah, agreed. But I mean, that's kind of goes without saying, doesn't it? And it's not my, that's not a change, it's a stay.
Hmm.
I'm talking about the changes. Um, I just think that splitting the men's and women's races, I don't know what that's gonna do. And I've spoken to a few athletes that I know well, and there's been an overriding theme, I would say, of like mild disappointment because it creates a nicer vibe when both the men and the women are racing at the same time.
It also just feels like I think the weirdest thing for me, and I kind of understand why they're doing it, but I feel like we just went through this with Iron Man. It didn't work. The reception was overwhelmingly negative to the point that Iron Man, like, we hear you, we're not going to do it. We're going to move back to same day. And then PTO is like, no, no, actually, we're going to do it now. And that was the weird thing. I'm like, didn't we just go through this? Didn't we just see that this didn't work? Did we? Yeah, I think the big thing for me is that, but I'll give
I
it a go.
assume, I mean, this is me guessing now, but I assume it's to keep the broadcast under 4 hours,
I saw that
um,
there was a comment about
and
that.
to make the broadcast a little bit easier to manage. Um,
They also
yeah,
have more pro races, right? Like, it actually means that they're having more, theoretically the same amount of pro races, but instead of doing, 16 pro fields, women and men, they've got eight. So they're in effect half in their pro races, even though it's the same number of pro races, if that makes sense, because it's, yeah, not both fields at both events. But I'm sure there's a spreadsheet reason for it. But
yeah, I would think like also London.
yeah, that was weird.
London's not a pro race anymore.
Yeah. It's a
That made me
WTCS
feel
race.
strange. Hey,
It's a WTCS race
it's a
instead.
WTCS race, yeah. It made me feel odd because I thought that was a real flagship event for them, and
But it was ugly, mate. It was an ugly race. Like, it didn't work. It was a good amateur race. I don't think it worked as a pro race though. The course was horrific.
yeah, I mean the course was horrific. I think if you're going to be splitting the men's and women's races, and you've got a field of 20, and it's just 20 men or 20 women racing on the in different locations, then I think one thing they're really going to have to do is work on work on the courses, condense them down, make them make them interesting, intricate, and not just coned off. They've got to have interesting, pretty courses.
Well, should we use this to segue into the next point? Because I think it is actually a really good time to do it. Is let's start talking a little bit about WTCS Wollongong or the grand final that happened over the weekend slash T100 Wollongong because I think from your point exactly is a great place to start because I was in Wollongong over the weekend
Yeah,
and
you were a man
the
on the ground.
the thing that I thought watching it on the I've rewatched some of the race on the broadcast. I was there and I remember thinking, and I think I said in the Patreon group, to me, this is proof of concept that you don't need to chase the big city locations because this was such a good location for a race. And I really walked away thinking this is actually what the PTO and World Triathlon need to do more. Stop chasing the Londons, stop chasing I mean Singapore's the exception, it's a great race, but let's instead of saying, oh, it's Las Vegas and then it's in a house in a state, miles away or saying it's, this is the sort find smaller towns that are easy to access with accommodation options and put on a race that is very spectator friendly because that Wollongong course lent itself. And this is both short course and the long course race because I believe the run course was the same or similar for both. Mate, I had the best time at Wollongong watching the races. I thought it was such a good location. And I really hope we see more. Like, walking away, I thought, fuck, I hope this should be a world triathlon event every single year. I think it should be a T100 event every single year. The Wollongong Triathlon is a race for an amateur I've done many times. And I would love to see if they introduced an amateur T100 race in Wollongong, I think it would go gangbusters. Like this to me was like this is what we need to see more. I would rather see them trying to go and find these locations like Wollongong. We've seen Edmonton in Canada, for example. Pick the places that want the events and then nail it.
Yeah,
Rather than do a London,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is in a dockside where it's full of cones and construction
Yeah,
and
spectator friendly,
yeah.
aesthetically pleasing. So, and wrap it all up. The London was interesting. It's not a very spectator friendly environment, and it's not a very broadcast friendly environment either.
So let's talk about Wollongong. You've seen which races did you watch over the
Yeah, I
weekend?
mean, I watched quite a bit of both of them. I didn't get up at 3 in the morning, but I've seen the highlights. I mean, the men's race was just Hayden and Mika on the bike, surging clear, and then Hayden, and then Hayden, 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 Hayden. And that was it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't. So, I mean, it's a whole week of events for people who haven't gone down for the Age Group World Champs before. But I think it basically started on Wednesday with amateur races because there's like sprint, standard, aquabike, all these events. And you've got the juniors, under 23s, para, T100, WTCS. So it's a whole week. So I went down on the Friday to watch. I had one of my clients race the junior race and then I caught up with a bunch of people, which is great. And then I went back down on Sunday. So Wollongong for me is about 90 minutes away. And by the time I realized that I had Mike Phillips racing T100, I couldn't get accommodation. So I'm like, well, I'm not going back down 3 days in a row. So I opted out of the T100, but I was there for the grand final. And yeah, I thought being there on the ground brilliant. Now let's unpack the T100 first because I don't really have a lot to say about it, unfortunately. I put it on when I got home from my bike ride on Saturday. It was Hayden. I think Kate had already won. And then I watched the highlights and there weren't really many. It was pretty much they just dominated, to be honest. So,
Yeah, they did. They did. In the men's, Hayden Wilde took the win ahead of Mika Newt, ahead of Yuri Kulin, ahead of Menno Koolhaas, ahead of Henry Rappo, who is the standout performer of the weekend for me,
definitely.
mate, coming in fifth place. Part of our podcast Patreon group. So great to see Henry doing so well on his debut T100 race.
Mm. And I think Mika to me was good. Like he seemed to be relatively close to Hayden. But fuck me, it looked like Hayden was jogging it, mate. Like truly, he's talking to the camera. It just didn't
Yeah,
even.
it wasn't. It didn't look like an all-out frantic race for the finish, did it? It was good to see Mika coming in second place, and I would say even better to see Yuri Kulin get a round off the podium.
Yeah.
Um, because after he won that race, he never hadn't we hadn't seen him perform in the same way since. So it was nice to see him do so well. Sam Dickinson was fast in the swim and then sort of faded throughout the race. Um, how did Mike get on?
Mike was 13th. Yeah, I think just, he's come back from injury. He's more of an Ironman guy anyway. Sam Dickinson, I probably would have expected to do better because he finished, what did he finish third in the French Riviera race, which I think was a stronger field. I really like Sam Dickinson. I feel like he is a bit inconsistent, and it's probably youth. Like, when they're younger, they do tend to be a bit more inconsistent with their performances.
I thought you
I,
said it's probably you for a minute then. I was like, I don't know what I've done to this man.
he's been bailed. He was probably listening to you on the bike, and it's like you get very monotone, and he starts to tune. Then he hits me and he picks up. No, I think I probably expected Sam Dickinson to finish higher, but yeah, I well done, Hayden. You mean you've said it on previous episodes, and I love to call you on this because it does always get a bit of a reaction. Was this a masterclass performance that you enjoyed, or was this a masterclass performance that you didn't find that enthralling?
I would say the second out of those,
Yeah.
simply because it was just a bit of a boring race.
Yeah. And great course as well. Like I actually think the run course had some decent elevation. The bike course had some decent elevation. There's a climb going out that I'd forgotten about because we were chatting and they're like, "Oh, here's the course." I said, That's flat. That's not very hilly." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, I'd forgotten that they got that hill to get out to the out and back part." So a good challenging course, but just when you've got
Mm.
two athletes that are so much stronger than the rest of the field, it's just okay. Like yeah,
Yeah, and that race left the season standings with Hayden leading, obviously because he's got a 100% record. Yellow Gaines in second, Mika Newton third, Rico Bogan in fourth. Hayden's got a 140 to Yellow Gaines 122, Mika Newt's 110, and Rico's 93.
remember there was a point where they said if Yellow Gaines wins it, he basically can't lose the series, and we're like, that was a while ago. Hayden has
Yeah,
just
yeah.
come in and fucking destroyed him.
Steamrolled it. Yeah, absolutely steamrolled it. It just looks unbeatable.
Just, ooh, we'll talk about it later. Weirdly, he seems to have adapted very well to the middle distance. Short course seems a little bit more of a challenge for him. It'll be fascinating to see what happens moving forward. But the women's race, very similar to the men's race. Kate Woff just fucking miles ahead. Just not even, not even threatened. Just see you later, alligator.
Yeah, totally. Ahead on the swim, ahead on the bike, and ahead on the run. Even putting in a faster run than Ashley Gentle, where you get to the run and you expect Ash to put some time back into her. She
Now,
didn't do it.
I know what made you happy though. I know what made you happy in that women's race.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
Ellie did great. Ellie it was brilliant to
She
see
did.
Ellie have such a
Yeah.
strong performance.
It was
So that
really
was
good to see Ellie Salthouse in fourth place. The overall standings, Kate Wolf in first, Ashley Gentle in second, Sarah Press-Sala in third, Ellie Salthouse in fourth. Great to see. Love to see it. Ahead of Hannah Devet in fifth. Left the overall standings with Kate Wolf leading on 128, Lucy Charles-Barclay in second on 119, Ashley Gentle in third on 107, and Julie Derren in fourth on 96.
Hannah Tevet getting fifth also. That's Hayden's partner. Uh, really great to see her
Did,
have a best
did you
finish as
see during
well.
the broadcast that he was on a run lap and she was by the side of the road? She shouted at him, "I got fifth."
Yeah, it's cute, isn't it?
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool.
Yeah,
I
I
love that.
like that. I like Hannah. Yeah, again, similar. I don't really have much to say. It was a great place for a race, but we had just two athletes that were so dominant. And again, as I said at the start, I'm not. I would have put all my money. You probably get 1-to-1 odds on Hayden and Kate winning those races, and yeah, we saw it. Yeah, it doesn't lend to super enthralling viewing. One thing I did see, or one thing that happened, this isn't so much a broadcasting, but more of like a in my real life sort of thing, is because Sydney's quite close to Wollongong. A lot of the triathletes that I know wanted to go watch a race over the weekend, and I was surprised how many opted to go watch the T100 rather than the WTCS on the Sunday. And to me, I was like, fuck, like, it's not gonna WTCS is gonna be dead. Like everyone's gonna be watching the T100 and not hang around for WTCS. I was wrong because I saw on the broadcast T100 had an okay crowd, but fuck me, WTCS Grand Final was absolutely pumping. Now let's T100. There you go. That's where everything stands. Congratulations. We've got two more races to go. Let's talk about the Grand Final, mate, because what a fucking women's race.
Mm.
Jesus Christ. It was Kona 2.0. I could not, could not believe what happened in the women's race. It was diabolical.
Yeah. Were you? I mean, I was asleep. So
Hmm.
I woke up to a barrage of messages that I kind of skimmed through in the Patreon group.
Yep.
And I never really went back and watched the race. I just knew the result and thought, well, Tim was on the ground. He'll give us an overview.
Yep.
Were people blowing up like they were in Kona?
So
Because
this is this
that was the vibe I got from the group.
this is I will tell my actual story of the day because as I said, I had a brick session to do on Sunday. I couldn't get down there for both of them on time, but I knew I'd be able to make the run of the women's race. So drove down to Wollongong, got there, parked like maybe 500 meters away. As I was walking, the women were coming, and the first time I saw the women run past, I think it was lap two, and Cass had just slightly dropped off the back of the group. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, like didn't expect to see that because the biggest problem that World Triathlon has is that the points make it very complicated. If this happens, then this. If this happens, then this, and this happens, then this, to work out who's going to be world champion. And I remember thinking, well, fucking hell, it looks like Beth Potter's going to be world champion. Anyway, so I keep walking further down the course because it's probably, to be honest, the actual course is probably only just over a kilometer long. Like it's very spectator friendly because you can move around very easily, plenty of options where to cross. And I remember I got to the lighthouse bit and I saw Aspen and Braden Mercer and a couple of people, the Australians, on one corner, and then I wanted to go across to meet Mike Phillips. And I went down to find the spot where I could cross, and I fucking nearly trip over because Cassandre Beaugrand is literally in the fetal position on the side of the course. And I didn't spot her until I was sort of on top of her. I was like, fucking hell, that's it's like Jesus. I knew she dropped off, but that's like she's fucked. And then so I'm like, well, that's quite kind of like because it's what happened to Taylor. You think it's Beth Potter, and then Beth Potter fucking blows too. And you end up with Lisa Tertsch. So for Lisa Tertsch to win the world title, had to win the race in Wollongong and have both Beth and Cassandra finish outside the top five. And it fucking happened.
I know it's such a long shot, isn't it? When those two have had the seasons that they've had, certainly Cassandra as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of consistency she's shown this year, it's such a long shot to think she'd have gone into this race thinking, right, all I can do is win, and then whatever happens behind me, it's very unlikely that those two players are going to finish out the top
Yeah.
five. Both of them did. I find that incredible.
So
What
do I.
happened? What happened? Because it wasn't like they were running in a group.
Yeah.
It wasn't like individual efforts or chasing someone down or someone was putting, it wasn't like Lisa Tertsch was at the front putting the hammer down to
No.
try and blow these motherfuckers up.
Yeah, like I think that so it's a multi-lap course, and to be honest, both courses are a lot tougher than they look on paper. It was hot, it was windy, so very like, it's a very exposed course, and especially for the WTCS athletes in particular, very small, very thin. Cassandra Bregrand's very thin. I feel like it was probably just a combination of the factors. I spoke to her manager this week about something else, but I asked how she was going, and he was saying that she was feeling great, and suddenly just it's like just bonked basically, like just went either hyper or hyperglycemic and just lost like if you I don't know if you've seen the highlights even, but she just literally because there's this lighthouse loop, so they sort of go out past the finish line, come back, and they do this loop around the lighthouse, and it's quite hilly, and there's a little pinchy bit at the back end of it, and she's already dropped off the group at this point. The rubber band snapped, and then she hits this incline, and it's like she's walking up the hill, mate. Like it was so like horrific, I suppose, to watch. But I just think it was a combination of all of it. I mean, the other thing is Australia's so far away, so a lot of these athletes have traveled a long way to get there. I know the
Mm.
French came like 2 weeks before to try to adjust to the time zones, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And but man, again, so it made the racing goddamn exciting
Oh,
because
and yeah, the commentary was awesome as well.
oh yeah, I've been because again, viewing it in person was great, but I've been on the trainer this week watching the actual races to make the most of Will and Belinda. Incredible. Like it was exactly what I thought it would be, and I think that no disrespect to Trevor, but mate, I'd be a bit nervous about my job if I was you after.
Yeah, I mean, you put a note in the Patreon group which stuck with me all week, where you were saying you'd seen a conversation after the race between
Yeah, The
Who was
broadcast
it?
team.
Will, Belinda, and who was it?
It was their broadcast. It was the broadcast team. It
Yeah, it was the
wasn't. It was
broadcast team, and just how stoked they were
yeah.
to have put on the show that they did, which is a vibe you don't get from Iron Man, for example. You don't get the feeling that they're finishing the show going, fucking hell, we nailed that. What an amazing experience that will have been for the viewer.
Yeah, I'll give that story for people listening. After the race were over on Sunday, I actually wanted to go find Will and Belinda because I have a lot of love for both of them. And as I approached the broadcast area, the team was literally like, "We fucking nailed it, guys! Congratulate!" I was so good that they were so pumped. And there was a group of like six of them that were like really celebrating. And then Belinda came out and they all hugged her. And then Will came out and like it was the excitement for what they had done was so palpable. And I remember being like, I love seeing this. Like, and you're right, it's not what you expect. Most broadcast, like it almost feels all the time with triathlon broadcasts, it's just like we just have to tick the box. So
Yeah,
to
we're just
actually
doing
see,
this. And you feel like with Iron Man, they just once it's over, they're just like, oh, well, that's done then.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I
It's
know.
like,
But like even the and it's not the WTCS race, but in the under 23 race, we saw the Australian Rochelle Hill win in a sprint finish. Like she literally won the race with a couple hundred meters to go and hit the shoot sprint finish for the world title. If you guys haven't, go to Instagram and check the clip because Will McCloy does the sort of commentary that is missing in everything. Like what the job that he did with these races, if you apply his commentary to what happened in Hawaii, what happened in Nice, what will happen in Marbella, what happens in the T100, it's just there's no one else doing what he does. And it's because he's a professional TV commentator. And you know what? Maybe you don't, maybe it's not your cup of tea. But for me, having a
mm.
commentator actually excited about what's happening on the screen
Oh,
makes
having
me more
grown up
excited.
watching professional sports that aren't triathlon, because it wasn't really possible, you're used to a certain level of quality commentating, aren't you?
Yeah.
Even in cricket test matches,
Yeah, yeah.
where it's fairly mundane most of the time, but it's interesting conversation. And then when things happen, you're like, fuck, they know what they're doing. They know how to do this.
Yeah, it was, and talking with Belinda afterwards, because I mean, I know both Will and Belinda prepared a lot for this. Like I was messaging Belinda and she was just like, God, I've got so much prep to do every time I'm studying. Like legitimately, they don't just rock up and do it. Like they prepare. And BG was saying to me that the thing she didn't anticipate was that unlike an Ironman distance race, you don't have the time to talk. So she's almost like, I didn't need to do as much research because it's only 2 hours or an hour 45. You actually are just talking about the action. It's very
Mm.
rare that you need to tell the waffle that you need to
Yeah,
do with an Ironman.
you're not filling time.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we've jumped to the broadcast. Brilliant. I think. I thought the camera, again, it looked so good on the television. I really recommend people saying that. Even I was messaging Joe Skipper this week, and Joe was telling me how WTS is so boring. I'm like, dude, just fucking watch it. Like, actually watch the races and then give me your thoughts because I did not think it was boring either. I mean, look, obviously the men's race, I'm very biased, which we'll talk about. But no, I think they've nailed the broadcasting this year. I think in terms of the actual what you're seeing on the screen, it's the best we've seen this year. And I think you add Will and Belinda. I've talked about T100 being the gold standard this year or Super Tri. I think that WTCS's coverage of the grand final is probably the best broadcast triathlon race I've seen this year. I'll say that. I think it was absolutely fantastic. And again, big part because the athletes did so well. To the women's race, some incredible performances across the board. As we said, Lisa Tertsch fucking nailed it this year. Talk about like a silent assassin. We had that all German podium at the start of the season. And then she's sort of been there or thereabouts all season. So to see her come through and win the
Done
thing.
enough to put herself in a position where she could take the win in the grand final, and she did. Fair play.
And then you had some others like, Emma Lombardi, who's been out with injury. I think she was on the podium. Bianca Seragini, the Italian.
In second,
Again,
Emma Lombardi in third, Leonie Pereira in fourth, and Jessica Fulgar in fifth.
even Leonie, it
Mm.
genuinely looked like Leonie was going to run him down for the win, and then Leonie would have probably won the world title. Like it had everything. And Jess Fulger, again, an athlete that I think I've sort of gotten to know through Super Try, to see her fastest bike split of the day, spent all day on the front, absolutely ripping the bike, and you've always sort of expected Jess to probably fade a little bit on the run. Didn't, held on for fifth. Like just it was a day of just incredible performances across the board, and then you had like you had the people that you look at, like you'd expect Lisa Tertsch to be up there or thereabouts. You'd expect Emma Lombardi to be up there or thereabouts. You'd expect Cass, you'd expect Beth. But then there's others like Jeanne Lahair. And so Jeanne didn't have a great day. She probably came in a bit close. She had a huge season for Super Try, huge season across the board. You get it. But like, man, I just thought the women's race was absolutely phenomenal. Like anybody who enjoyed Kona, watch this because it's the same thing, just a lot shorter. And it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal race. Truly phenomenal.
So Lisa Tertsch, having taken the win, took the overall in the WTCS final standings with 3,886.26 points. Leonel Perriot came second with 3,577.04 points. Beth Potter came third, Taylor Spivey in fourth, Bianca Seragini in fifth, and Jehan Lahair in sixth. Jehan
I,
Lahair.
I cannot believe that Taylor Spivey finished fourth. Like I'm
I
shocked to
know
hear it.
Cassandre Beaugrand finished the season in seventh place, which was
Wow.
so surprising to me.
Just missed those points and dropped right down. It's yeah, tough. Because you look at it, and I don't think she's had a seventh place year. She won what, two races, second in another. Yeah, it just shows how important that grand final is. And yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the men's race because the men's race was also fucking incredible.
Yeah, I mean it was a exhibition, really, wasn't it? From the guy he's had his season. This has been Matt Hauser's season, and if anybody deserved to have the race that he had here, then it was him, because he just went out and underlined exactly why he deserved this world title.
Yeah,
I watched the swim start today, and watching him fuck off through the sea was incredible.
it was so good. This was to me, and it's actually not now till you just said it, because again, watching it in person, I don't think I don't think I thought of it as like that domination. But it is probably what we were talking about. You said you love to watch, like there's master classes you love to see. And I actually think now in hindsight, looking back, I'm like, no, that's a really good example of it because I'm also not like a super patriotic, like my favorite athlete isn't always the Australian. I don't always by
Yeah,
default
I'm
cheer.
as you know, I'm not a nationalist when it comes to sport.
Oh, fucking hell on Sunday I was though. Like seeing an Australian win the world championship in Australia. I didn't realize this, first Australian to win a WTCS world title since 2005. Man, it was electric. It was the yeah. I mean, I think the only event I've been at that was better was the Olympics. This was so good. And again, I really enjoyed. Tyler got within like 6 seconds of the podium at one point, had a crack, ended up falling back for ninth. The whole thing. The reaction of Alessio Crociani when he got passed for second. Within 400 meters of finish, fantastic. It was a slogfest. You saw people actually, Miguel Hidalgo trying to run through the field, Vasco trying to hold on. Like it was brilliant. And then at the front, you had Matty Hauser, who just did his thing, stayed strong, and as Will McCloy said, perfect season. Literally finished with perfect points. Couldn't have done it better.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it. So Matt Hauser in first place ahead of David Del Campo, ahead of Alessio Crocani, ahead of Miguel
Crociani.
Hidalgo, ahead of Vasco Velarsa, ahead of Max Studer. And top 10, ninth place for our favorite Canadian, Tyler Mislowchuk.
Yeah, like I said, I said this to him after I had dinner with him that night. I love the way he races because, like he said, he got within 6 seconds of the podium, went, fuck, I'm going to have a crack at this, went for it, and then sort of blew with, on the last lap, ended up having a bit of a vomit as he tends to. But I said to him, like, I'd rather you have cracks and try rather than just like, he probably could have held on for like sixth or seventh, but takes a swing, finishes ninth. And I like that approach. I think it's what makes the racing exciting because you could actually see him and Miguel working through the field. And then I think when they realized Miguel put the afterburners on and Tyler went as well and just didn't have the same legs. But the other thing that they showed on the broadcast, I don't know if you've seen it, was Hayden Wilde did this race as well. We spoke about Hayden a lot or a bit with the T100. I was doing the sneaky double and didn't really feature. Was one of the last people out of the water, was miles behind on the bike. And we spoke about him talking during the broadcast with the run. Similarly was on the broadcast with the bike, but complaining about the group, saying, oh, there's no synergy. This isn't how you win a race. And I really felt like going, shut the fuck up, Hayden. Like, why would anybody work for you, mate? You're the best, you're arguably one of the best runners in the field. If I was in a
Yeah.
group with you, I'd be going, well, we know how good you are. Fucking go. Like I just found that weird. Like I found his response a bit off-putting, I suppose. But I think he DNF'd. I don't think he actually finished because I saw him jogging around waving to the crowd and then he just wasn't there. So I think he hopped off the course or might have got eliminated. I'm not sure, but he has a long way to go to get back to
Yeah, I mean
previous
his
world
his
record.
his lack of performance was unsurprising, really, having done the T100 the day before. It's not we didn't see him really factoring in this. But
Yeah.
yeah, the results as they were left the overall season standings with Matt Hauser in first place with 4,250 points with no decimal places. Medel Hidalgo in second, Vasco Velasa in third, Henry Gaff in fourth. So yeah, perfect season for Matt Hauser and a really, really good to see. I've known Matt since the early Super League days, and he's a great bloke to spend time with and to be around. And he's a very, very worthy season he's had. I messaged him the other day and said congratulations, and he messaged back saying cheers, mate. And I said, oh, but I did see how you fell over in transition there for you in T1, and he was like, I'm still a rookie at heart. And I was like, hey, you styled it out. You styled it out, mate.
Still got the shit moustache too. I would have thought he'd get rid of that horrible, horrible moustache for the grand final, but no, I really like Matt Hauser. He came to an event we did in Gold Coast earlier this year to give a talk to the kids. And like I'm certainly not as close to Matt as you are, but I've known him for a long time. And he's just such a nice, well-mannered young man. You know what I mean? Like really, he's he's everything you'd hope a world-class athlete would be. Like it was so good with the kids, gave them all the time. I just again, it's like actually as an Australian nice to have hope. Oh, we've got to hope that somebody could do something good for us because it's been so long. But mate, honestly, the crowd went absolutely crazy. I don't know if you saw the footage, but when they did the podium presentation for the world title, the speaker system stopped working. So they couldn't play the national anthem of Australia. So instead, the entire crowd sung the national anthem for Matt. How at the end of it they have so it was the
That's
crowd
cool as
singing.
well.
Yeah, what a brilliant moment. And oh mate, honestly, the atmosphere was like the sense of pride for the Australians to have him win you really felt it. Like it
So
was.
what's next for Matt Hauser then? Is he going long next year? Or
Nah,
does he have another WTCS season?
I think he's going for the LA, to be honest. From what I've heard, his goal is going to be LA. It sounds like a few of them are. Like I heard Hayden is all in on LA, which I personally think is an error. But yeah, I think Matt he did a 70.3 at the start of this year, but DNF'd. I think he had a mechanical problem on the bike at Geelong. I think we'll see him do long distance in the future, but make hay while the sun is shining. What a
Oh, too right. Too right. And it's really good to see him execute like this across the season. And he really did take advantage of the form he's got this year and the opportunity he had and what a way to do it.
Now, the last thing I guess we want to talk about is we've got the Marbella 70.3 World Championship start lists have been released. Would you like to have a bit of a conversation about Marbella? Because you are going to be a man on the ground in Marbella, aren't you?
I am indeed, mate. I am going to be in Marbella. I'm going to arrive on the Friday night, I think, and leave on the Monday. I'm really looking forward to that weekend. I'm looking forward to getting a bit of fucking sun on my bald head, to be honest. It's been a bit depressing over here of late. Um, and I'm looking forward to being there to support Andy, Horseful Turner, and Lizzie Rayner as they go for their races on the Saturday and the Sunday, and seeing how they go, and generally soaking in the vibes.
It's so as I always like to Tripole Athlete on Instagram is my go-to source for start lists and results these days. I think they do an excellent job over there. So definitely give Tripole Athlete a follow. Makes our life a lot easier doing this show. But what they've done that's really good is they've not just given the start list, they've actually shown everybody who's qualified and then all the people that aren't racing. So it's actually like I'm just before we talk about who is racing, I'm looking at some of the names that aren't racing, and it's a little bit like, oh, that's a bit annoying because there's some athletes on that list I'd
Let
actually
me
really
pull it
like to
up.
see. We've got like with the women not racing, Erica Ackland, who's the American short course athlete, I'd love to see her have a go. Alice Alberts, Grace Alexander, Nikki Bartlett, Hannah
Oh,
Berry,
Nikki
I'd love to see
Bartlett's
do
out.
it.
That's a shame.
Simone Daly, Rochelle Hill, Daniela Kleiser, I would have loved to see do it just because of how good her run is. Who
Claire
else?
Michelle's not racing.
Jean Lahair's not racing. Another athlete I would have loved to see do it.
Els
Victoria
Visser's out.
Lopez, Laura
Lotte Wilms
Madsen.
is out.
Yeah. Claire Michelle's
Amelia
retired,
Rose
obviously.
Watkinson's not racing. Anna Reichman's not racing.
Chelsea
Chelsea Sodaro's
Sodaro.
not racing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then the
I mean,
men's.
it does show the depths of the women's field at the moment, though, when you can have that many names you recognize not racing, but still have a hell of a field on your hands.
It is a hell of a field. So we've just spoken about who isn't racing. Let's turn our attention to his who is racing. In the women's race, we have got. I'm not going to read everyone. I'm just going to find the names that are of note. Not that they're not of all of note, just the ones that are worth more interesting to it. Lucy Charles-Barclay, Hannah Devet, Nina Darren, Paula Finlay, Jackie Herring. Who else is we? Taylor Nibb, Solvay Loveseth, Jess Lemont, India Lee, Kat Matthews. I saw what's the name before? Where are you? I saw you. Paula
Ellie
Finlay, I think I might have
Salthouse,
said. Marjolaine Pierre,
um,
Lizzie Rayner,
Lizzie Rayner,
Marta
Georgia Taylor Brown,
Sanchez. Yeah,
Grace Beck.
it's good. Good start list, mate. Probably get
It
a
really is, yeah, it really is, and it goes deeper than that.
probably get a
Um,
lower strength of field than T100 Wollongong, but that's neither here nor
it's
there.
going to be a really exciting race, and I'm really happy that it's split over the 2 days as well,
Mhm.
because you're going to get the 2 days of racing, which is going to be really good fun.
Do you think we're going to see, because there's been a lot of talk about what Lucy Charles and Taylor Nibb are going to do after what happened to them in Hawaii. Do you think we're going to see them at this race?
I hope so. I mean, this is the question, isn't it? The women's field is strong and deep, but are they all going to race, having done Kona? Um, I hope so. I hope we see Taylor Nibb and Lucy Charles-Barclay at this race. I hope we see Kat Matthews at this race, etc. Extend it right down through all the women that did Kona. I hope that they all get to come to this race and are not affected by what they did in the heat of Hawaii.
If I'm correct, this is a week before Dubai,
T100
T100.
Dubai.
Fucking hell. Like just here we go again. Why are there always these clashes? It's crazy. But no, I'm looking at that start list, the athletes that I get very, very excited about. No surprises, Georgia, Jess Lemont. Curious to see what Solvay does at 70.3. Um, yeah, I mean Paula Finlay. It's this is going to be such a fast. Laura Phillip, I didn't even mention before. This bike course is crazy. 1,850 meters of elevation. I think it's going to be it's not going to be a close race. This is going to be, especially the women's, I think we're going to see those big gaps we've seen at races like Nice and stuff. So I'm kind of jealous. I mean, I can't possibly face another trip to Europe, to be honest. I fucking think of nothing worse. But I would have liked to been there for this because I do feel like, firstly, it's the first real event we're having this year from an Ironman point of view where the men and women are together. So you just know you're going to get that buzz. And Marbella looks like such a beautiful spot for a race anyway. I think it's going to be
Mm.
a brilliant weekend. Let's talk about the men's race. Similar to the women's, the names that aren't racing: Gregory Barnaby, Rodrigo Gonzalez, Ben Hamilton, Luke Jones. I don't know who that is. Pierre Lecour, disappointing. Matt McElroy, disappointing. Tyler Mislechuk, of course, disappointing. Justice Nishlag, Mika Newt,
Martin Van
Morgan
Riel,
Pearson.
disappointing.
Is he not racing?
Looks like not, no. Lionel Sanders,
Oh,
obviously. Morgan Pearson, no.
yeah,
Mika
it's
Newt,
sad, isn't it?
no. So yeah, shame all round on those ones. But again, we've still got a
Oh,
stacked
mate.
field.
Who is racing? Let's go through. So again, not everybody, but just the names that jump out at me. Sammy Appleton, Daniel Beckergaard, Jake Birtwistle, Patagonius Bidados, Christian Blumenfeld, Rico Bogan, Alessio Crociani, Sam Dickinson, Magnus Ditlev, Mark Dubrick, Trevor Foley, Yella Gaines, Christian Hogenhag, Matt Hounson, Miguel Hidalgo, Emil Holm, Andy Horsford Turner, Gustav Eden, Robert Callan, Ben Canute, Jesus, Jackson Laundry, Sam Long, Vincent Louis, fucking hell, Matisse Magerier, Kenji Nina, Max Newman, apparently. That'll be interesting. Uh, who else we got? Taylor Reid, Jamie Riddle, Seth Ryder, Jonas Schomburg, Casper Stepaniak, Casper Stornes, Nick Thompson, Rudy Von Berg, Sebastian Wernes, and Jason West. Mate, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good start
Really is,
list.
yeah. It's much like the women's field, it's stacked and deep, and we are going to see some racing here. I think that out of the two fields, this one will be the one because Kona was so brutal. This one is the one that will be less impacted by the by performances in the World Championship, coupled also with the extra distance time-wise between Nice and now. So it's going to be very exciting.
The question that I'll ask though, and it's just because of how he's been performing at the other series, is are you disappointed that Hayden Wilde isn't on the star list, or are you kind of relieved thinking, fuck, somebody else might win this instead of instead of Hayden?
No, I think were Hayden Wild on this start list, I probably wouldn't be thinking he was gonna
Yeah,
walk
same
it quite
actually.
as easily as he was the T100s. I'd be thinking, well, we've got to have a race on our hands here.
So look, we won't preview it too much. I just wanted to go through the start list today. We'll do that on when is it next? Is it next weekend?
No, it's the weekend after
Okay,
next, I
we'll do
think.
a
No, the
proper
weekend
preview then.
after the weekend after next,
Okay, so we've
I
still got a
think.
few weeks. So
It's the
we'll
yeah.
milk that for the next couple of episodes, that's for sure. But Jimbo, mate, we are done. It's another episode in the bag. If people want to find out more about Talking Triathlon, mate, where do they need to go?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/, talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Find us across all social networks, which is not all social networks. We're on
Not not Twitter.
Instagram as at Talking Triathlon. We're not on Twitter because it sucks. You join the Patreon group, you get access to the monthly bonus episode and the social groups, and we'll put you in the WhatsApp group, which is always never-ending amounts of entertainment. There's been so much chat recently
Oh,
about the
fuck.
age group qualifying,
They're going to be upset we
and
haven't
I
covered it,
can't
actually.
can't get my head around it. So I'm just kind of staying out of that a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're not a member of the Patreon group though, and you want to get in touch, you want to interact in some way, then leave a comment on the YouTube video because we are more than likely to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I loved it again. Same thing. Thank you, everybody who got involved last week. Great comments, great conversations, great points. So really, really appreciate the positive and constructive chats. It's a good time. But Jimbo, mate, a pleasure. I will let you get back to your video game. I'm going to get on with my day, guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.
Cheerio.